Good afternoon. Welcome to our session today, Getting Started, Digital Museum Resources and the Smithsonian Learning Lab. My name is Philippa Rappaport, and I am an educator with the Smithsonian Office of Educational Technology, which is a central education office at the Smithsonian, and we are responsible for the Learning Lab platform, which we'll talk about today. In our session today, we'll cover the basics of getting started in the Learning Lab. We'll talk about the setup of the lab and its functionality. We'll look at some examples of interactive learning experiences in the lab, what we call collections. And then after that, we'll talk about how to search and favorite resources so that you can find them again more easily and to favorite content in the lab. And then we'll do a hands-on training to help you get started making your first collection. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end, but please feel free to share your questions in the chat throughout, and I'll either address them then or address them at the end. Today's session is one of a series of offerings that we have through the month. So today we have our Getting Started. Next week we'll have our companion session to this one, sort of the part 2, which is creating collections. So there we'll get a little bit more into the functionality of making your collection interactive, adding all kinds of additional sort of bells and whistles to make your collection more exciting and interesting and interactive. So that's next week. The following week, we have our regular drop-in office hours. So those are pretty much every other Monday afternoon. And then the week following, we have a session called Connecting Through Family Stories. And that's going to be a really exciting session. We have 2 educators associated with Harvard's Project Zero and Reimagining Migration initiatives, and also an educator from Fairfax County Public Schools Family Literacy Program. And we'll be talking about using family stories as a way to enhance language acquisition, to build confidence and really just pride and joy in one's family stories. And then for the month of December, we'll have drop-in office hours on the 2 first Mondays there. So as I mentioned before, I do have a sort of a series of content that I'd like to walk us through for the first part of this session. But please, at any time, feel free to put your questions either in the chat over on the far right if you're joining us through YouTube, or if you're joining us through Facebook, use the comment section down in the bottom center. Okay? So once again, you post your questions. And then here, so I'm going to switch my screen over now to the Learning Lab. And that's where I'll start showing you what we're doing. So what you may want to do, sorry, I'm just getting my windows correct here. What you may want to do is have, so here I'm going to switch my slide, okay? So now, right now I'm at learninglab.si.edu, and what I would recommend is that while I'm doing this, you might want to open up 2 windows on your screen so that you have the webinar that we're in on one side so you can see what I'm doing. And then you might also want to open up the lab in a separate window so that you can have both side by side and you can be trying some of what we're looking at. Okay? All right, just one sec. Okay. So what you're looking at here, this is the home page of the Learning Lab. And what you can see is that we've split it up. We've got 4 verbs there, okay? And these are the things you can do with the lab. One is that you can discover all kinds of content from across the Smithsonian. That's any kind of digitized resource, images, podcasts, videos, learning resources, historical documents, photographs, right? All the digitized content from across the Smithsonian. That's millions of objects that have already been digitized and that are available. So that's in the Discover section. So here I'm just scrolling down. Um, Actually, I'll just mention before we get there, we also, once pandemic hit and we all started learning from home a year and a half ago, we put together this distance learning resources page. So you can click on here and find all kinds of really amazing information for English and then also Spanish language resources. Not only from the Learning Lab. These are from educators from across the Smithsonian. So if you're interested in how Smithsonian educators recommend using content, this is a really good place to look. Okay, so I'm just scrolling down. You would have the same effect if you were to click on those verbs on the left-hand side there, but here. So here you can discover all kinds of resources. When you sit down at your computer here and work in the lab, you can create this interactive learning experience, and that's what we call a collection, okay? We try to make it as accessible for you as possible. So all of these icons here, you can click on them to find more information that might be specific to your interest. Okay, you can browse resources by type. You can browse model collections about different topics. And then what you have here, we have this throughout that homepage, is the Getting Started guide. If you were to click there, you would come up on our guide that you could click on step by step by step by step and learn everything you need to know to use the Learning Lab. Okay, that's the Discover section. Next is what you do with this content that you found. So for that, we have Create. So here you can create collections of resources to engage all types of learners. What you see here in this little mini picture is how you would start a collection, which we'll get into just a little bit later. Okay? You can create your own collection with whatever content you like. You can also copy a collection. So say you find something by, a teacher, I think, do we have middle school social studies teachers here today? I forgot. Anyway, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. But let's say you're a middle school teacher of social studies and you find something that a high school social studies teacher created and you think, that's really great, I would just tweak it a little bit. What you can actually do is copy a collection and then tweak it the way you would need for it to work for your students. You never lose the attribution back to the original creator. That's all maintained in the information section of the collection. A really exciting, and I think one of the probably the best feature of this lab here, is that you're not limited to everything from the Smithsonian. You can upload your own resources. So you might want to upload a PDF file of instructions about how to use the resource. You might want to upload, I don't know, personal photographs, or you can bring in outside websites that have other content, maybe a news article, whatever that is. So you can upload that content as well. You can also make annotations to a collection. So we'll go through some examples of what all of that is. And you can also create assignments and have quizzes on the lab. So there's all kinds of interactivity that you can add to your collection. And once again, we have all these different tiles and tabs and icons where you can get more information and browse. Again, the Getting Started guide. Once you've created your collection, so Karen says yes. So I think I was correct about middle school, right? I think that's probably what you're replying to. Thank you. Once you've created your content, then you can decide how you want to share it. So you can publish your collection. If you publish it, that means it's findable by anyone looking on the web, if they have your keyword. If you don't want to publish it, you can just share the URL of the collection. And in that way, it's like an unpublished YouTube page, and people can see it if they have the link. You can also, of course, share it through all kinds of social media, Facebook, you can email it, Pinterest, Twitter. Okay, down at the bottom, when you get to the Learn section, that's designed to help people learn to use the Learning Lab and also to use digital content in their classrooms, in their after-school programs, at home, whatever it is. This is what we've got. Okay, we also have, when you register for the lab, you will automatically receive our Bright Ideas newsletter that comes out usually about once a month. And we do not share your address with anyone, so it's strictly for users of the lab, and it's content specific to what you can find in the lab. Again, you'll find our upcoming events. You'll find, you can again reach distance learning resources. We have our office hours. So I invite you to just scroll down there and explore. One other page I really that's really important for you to know about, if you were to scroll all the way to the bottom, do you see this tab at the very, very bottom? If you click Help, that's a live link, and that will take you to the Help page. And I'll also put that link in the chat. Let me just grab it. Okay. Here's where you'll find that step-by-step guide. So you could click on each of these lines here to get more information. It will take you immediately to that spot. Okay, create a collection, adapt an existing collection, etc. You'll also find here, this is where you can access our live sessions. For example, this is the one where we are right now. If you come onto this page and it's not happening right now, you can also watch the archive. Okay, so let's say watch the last webinar here. Okay, so these are all our online offerings, and you'll see as we get further down the page, we have tons of archived sessions with educators from the Smithsonian, from across the country. Okay, and all of that is available here. We have various playlists. So that's what you can see from the front page of the lab and on our help page. What I'd like to do now is give you some examples of learning resources so you can start thinking about how you might want to create a collection. Okay, so this first one I'm going to click on. Let me put this link in the chat so you can follow along if you like. Okay, does everyone have that? Okay, so this one is a really interesting one. It's called Learning to Look, Letter from Artist Yasuo Kuniyoshi after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. So this one is created by an educator at the Smithsonian Office of the Undersecretary for Education, Ashley Naranjo. And what she does here is, I really love this collection. So if you were to click Read More, you'll see here she has information about what you can find in this collection, right? If you were to click on the blue Ashley Naranjo, it would take you to her profile page. She put in, look at what she did here in her description. She has keywords. So that way, what she's done there is she's put in the keywords so that this collection will be more easily findable to users. So that's a really good idea if you're ready to publish your collection, to think about how you can help people find it more easily. She's also put in hashtags. So for those of you who are from one school or one program, for example, if you come up with a hashtag, if you were to then search in the lab by that hashtag, you would come up with all the collections that were created for that program. Okay, she also has notes to other users. Sometimes people put standards down there to help people see what standards they're connecting to. And then over on the right here, you'll see subject, age level, educational feature. When you're ready to publish your collection, you can tag them so that they show up this way. These are boxes that you click off and then they'll show up in this list. Okay, so that's what you see in the description section. So let me show you a little bit of what you see in this collection, okay? As you scroll down, each of these tiles is something that you can click on. So you see there are paper clips here in the top left of some of these tiles. That means that the tiles have been annotated in some way. So let's see what Ashley's done. Okay, so what she has here is a letter from Yasuo Kuniyoshi to George Biddle. What she's added here, you can add text into your collection. And so she simply transcribed the text of the letter because many students are not learning to read or write script. And so she thought that was important to help them be able to read the letter, right? She's also done highlights. So this little sort of magnifying glass here is a highlight. And what she's done here is if you hover over each of those boxes, right, you'll see she's transcribed the letter into highlights also. So you can hover over it and see what's going on, okay? You can also see an example of quiz questions. So what type of document is this? What date was it written? If she had created this as an assignment, her students could just type right into those boxes their answers, okay? And then again, she has another text box, that text area where she gives you more information about the letter. Okay, I'm going to use the navigation arrows on the bottom of the collection here to move to the next tile. See these two arrows at the bottom, left and right? I'm going to click on the right one. And here's our next box. Okay, so here she has a photograph, and here she's using the quiz questions format to give instructions to help students look more closely at this image and to try to have a better understanding of it. Okay, so she's giving a little more information, but also asking questions for thought. And then she has more text about the artist and about the photograph. Okay, let's see what else is in this collection. So I picked out, so you can also, here, you can use that, you can also make a quiz question or a writing prompt as its own tile. You can, here she has a writing activity as its own tile, so meaning you can just use text however you like. And then learn even more, so she has links to more content. And then this is what it looks like when you have a website. Okay, so here she has a website, a web page from the Archives of American Art. If I hover over it, it says go to website. And what you'll notice if you look at my windows up top, you'll notice that it's going to open into a new window. Okay, and so it's taking us to the web page. Not sure why it's taking a little, okay, there it is. Took a little while to load, but there's the web page. But what you see here, I'm going to go back to the window, one previous window, or tab, I guess, and you'll see that I haven't lost my place in the collection. Okay, so that's a really great feature about that. Okay, I want to show you something else, actually. Okay. I'm going to click here, show all collection progress tracking, okay? You can turn it off or turn it on, but look what happens when I have it turned on. So you can see the tiles that I've looked at are slightly darker than the others. So if you're looking, you know, sometimes if you're doing a search, it's sometimes a little bit tricky to try to keep track of everything that you've looked at. So here, that's a way, is to keep the tracking turned on. Okay, while we're there, I'll just show you these functions at the bottom. So you see these three circles on the bottom right. okay? You can take notes here. This is a new function that we added, which I think is pretty exciting. So you can take notes about what you're researching. You can find your history of what you've looked at while you're in the lab. Okay, so that really helps because, think of it with millions of objects in here and thousands of collections. It's easy to get really excited and go down many rabbit holes and follow your bliss into all kinds of really exciting content. So it's really helpful to have that browsing history there. Okay, if you click here, this screw, that's a way that you can click there and it'll take you right to the Help Center. You can click here to contact us. You can add in screen tips. If you're new, it's probably enabled. I've disabled it, but that's where you can turn it on and turn it off, and you can have your progress tracking. Okay. So that's one collection. I'd like to show you a couple of more examples. Okay, so I'm going to move to this window here. This is a collection by Aaliyah Myers, who is a teacher from Fairfax County. Let me put the link in the chat. So Susan is asking, does the history of browsed history last after an encounter, or is it wiped? No, let me show you. Oops, sorry. Let me go back into my history. So here, see, here's November 2nd, but it also has November 1st. So I was on there a lot yesterday, so you can see everything I looked at, but then it goes back to October 29th. So you can really follow your progress for quite a while. Okay, great question. Thank you. Okay, so did I give you the link for Aaliyah Myers? Yes. Okay, and Susan got the answer. Excellent. Okay, so let's look at this collection here by Aaliyah Myers. She, by the way, if you want a really great example of what to include in your description before you publish, hers is a really good example. Look at all this great content she has here. So here's the pre-populated content where you can just mark the boxes for the correct subject, age level, and educational features. But look at her description here. So she's created this collection to help students do their final project, to prepare them for a project. She has thinking routines in there, but she also adds in content for other educators so they can understand how to use the collection. She's added in global competency connections, and then some description about how you might use the collection. And then she has her hashtags, and then she adds in the standards. Okay, so all of that information is in her description. I'm going to just X out from the description and then show you. She's also put in sort of chapter headings to help split up her collection, and I'll show you where we have that. Okay, and here, so you can see she's added in all kinds of images for her students to consider. She's added in a sorting activity. She's added in the daily lesson sequence. She's added in questions to help students look more deeply. She's added in, and then some podcasts and other learning resources to help students look more closely. So that's one. I see we have a question. Let me see what's come here. Susan, I only see the prior comments from Smithsonian Education before the start and my comment, no other comments and no links. Not sure why. Okay. Susan, I'm not that great at, my one thought could be that it might be that you're not seeing it through Facebook, but you might be able to see it through YouTube. So what I would do is at the end of the session, if you like, I would go back to that help page, or you might want to switch over now to YouTube. I do think the comments are recorded there, although I've seen them in Facebook too, so I'm not sure what's going on. But anyway, here is where you'll be able to find the archived session. So I don't know if you want to leave Facebook and try through YouTube, or anyway, it will be available later. So even if you can't get those comments now. Okay. Okay, so you'll try through YouTube. Okay, but you also don't need to leave now because all those links will be there. Okay, I want to show you another collection here. This is by another colleague of mine, Cody Coltharp, also from the Office of the Undersecretary for Education, just to give you sort of a sampling of how people are using the Learning Lab. Cody is really creative and I just love his content. By the way, if if you feel the way I do, right? You come across someone's collection and you think that's really awesome, you can just click on that heart up at the top, see? So right now, I've clicked on the heart to favorite this collection. If I were to click on Cody Coltharp, see, I could favorite him too. So right now I'm unfavoriting him. See how the heart loses its red color? I'm going to favorite him. Okay, so that's how you do it. So let's go back to his fabulous ArtBots collection, and then I'll show you where you can access favorites too. So right now I'm just copying this so that you can explore it more on your own. Okay, that's the link to, or you could also just search ArtBots, right? Okay. So anyway, what Cody has here that's so exciting is he has all these instructions about how to make an ArtBot, and then there's actually here, a video that would actually take you through all the steps, okay? Just to show you some ideas of how people are using it. Here's something from Maureen Leary, who's a wonderful early childhood educator at the National Postal Museum. And what she's done is she's working with early learners. So she uses postcards as a jumping in activity to help bring context to read aloud stories. And so she has just a whole collection of all these amazing postcards to spark conversations. Okay. All right. So those are the examples I wanted to show you. Let me just check my list and see what else I want to show you. Okay. Just one sec. Okay, so I've shown you examples. We've talked about history and progress tracking. And I've shown you how to favorite. So now I'd like to just show you how to search. And at that point, I think you'll have really the basics to using the lab. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or suggestions about what you might want to look for? Before we search, I just want to show you this one other all-important button here. So you see the starburst? Is it a sunburst? A sunburst up in the top right. Okay, you see how if I hover over it, it turns yellow? I'm going to click on that. So that's like your homing button. Remember on phones, you could push a button, it would take you to the menu. That's what the sunburst does. Okay, so here it can take you to home. It can give you more sort of basic content from the lab. It can also give you your personal content. So here's your dashboard. It can take you to your profile page, your favorites, resources that you've uploaded, and then collections that you've created, and then notifications for assignments and rosters, etc. Let me show you what happens when I click on favorites. So you can favorite resources, you can favorite collections, you can favorite collections, resources in collections. So that would mean, maybe someone has annotated it in a specific way that you really like. So you might favorite a resource within a collection. You can also favorite people and you can favorite groups. So if I go to people, there's Cody. See? I want to show you one other feature over here on the right. You see these successive parallel horizontal lines? That's the list view that we're looking at right now. You can also look at the grid view. So I'm going to click on that grid. And here are all the people. So each of these tiles is someone that I favorited. Okay, if we were to look at collections, for example, each of these takes you to a collection that I have favorited. Okay, all right. So now let's review how to search. Okay, does anyone have anything specific they want to search? Okay, sometimes there's a little lag, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put in Lincoln, okay? And I'm going to click. Okay, so what we've got here, I like to use this as an example because, wow, look what showed up. Over 5,000. Here, so design your day. I would recommend that you put in applique quilts in your search section up at the top right. And then Susan, maybe put chess in yours and see what happens. Okay. So I've put in Lincoln and I found over 5,000 resources. Okay. So I may say, that's a little overwhelming. I don't really want to look through 5,000. So I can refine the search. Okay. Let me just point out what you're seeing here. Over 5,000 resources and 52 collections. So each of these tiles takes you to an individual learning resource that someone has put together, a collection. Okay. I'm going to go back to the resources page and I'm going to refine the search. Okay. So right now it opens up automatically to refine the search. I'm going to say, you know what? I just want images and let's see, images from, let's say I'm just interested in content from the portrait gallery. You can further um, specify date range, culture, place. Okay, let's say Illinois. Okay. Anyway, once you've clicked those boxes, then you have to update search. Now let's see what happens to resources and Learning Lab collections, okay? 5,081 and 52. So I'm going to click update search. Aha! See, so now it's down to 572. Unfortunately, I've knocked out all the Learning Lab collections. Okay, but that's a way that you can make it a little more accessible if it's kind of overwhelming. If if you put something in that gets a huge return, you might want to then refine it. Okay. Um, okay. Now let's talk about how you can actually get started creating a collection. Okay. So let's say, this is what I want to use for my collection. Okay, I've looked into it. I've read, here, I'll click on more information. I've read the information about it. This is what I want to do. Okay, I'll just explain to you what these buttons are here. I'll skip this. This one I'm going to come back to. So here, this is how you would favorite a resource. If I were to click here, that's how you can copy the link for this resource. If you wanted to embed this image on your own website, you would copy the code. If you go further down, if you were to click on the citation here, look at that. It gives you citation in MLA, APA, or Chicago style, and you would simply copy it. Okay. You can print it, and you could also flag it as awesome, inappropriate, or not working. Okay. You can also look at this. You can look more closely, and then you can drag it down to look at that image. You can, you can enlarge it or make it smaller. And then here, if you click this one, it puts it back to its original size. You can also download it. Okay. All right. So I wanted to show you this button, okay? What you see there are successive boxes and then a plus sign. That's how you would add it to a collection. So I'm going to click on Add to Collection. Why don't I say Create a Collection? So these are all collections I've already created. If you're new to the lab, you won't see that, okay? You'll just create collection. And let's just say Lincoln demo, okay? It's me. You can put whatever you want there for later, and then create collection. If you're quick enough, you can click on that green stripe at the top. You're probably not, and I don't want to anyway because I want you to be able to find it. Any idea how you would get back now to find your collection? You go, if in doubt, always go to the sunburst, okay? So I'm going to click on that sunburst, go to collections. You will not have group collections yet. You'll just have your published and unpublished. So I'm going to click on unpublished collections, and there's my Lincoln demo. Okay. Hey, Susan got it. Go to Sunburst and my collections. Excellent. You've totally got it. Okay, from there, if you can join us next week, then you'll get the next training, which is about creating collections. Okay, so today is getting started. Next week is creating collections. But essentially, if you want to keep going on your own, you would edit collection. And then here, I'll just show you quickly. And then you see that green stripe across the top. That's how you know you're in edit mode. And then you can start adding resources and trying to add functionality. Okay, if in doubt, you can scroll down from any page you have, and hit that help there, and it will take you to the help page, and that's where you should find all the information you need to know. Okay, let me just look at my list. Okay, so I think we've covered everything I had planned to cover today. If you want to register for an account, you can always go back to the Sunburst and you'll be prompted to register. Okay, so Susan says, super tour, thank you. Learning how to use this set of tools at last. Excellent. I'm so glad you were able to come today, Susan. And if you want to share it with anyone, you can always find the archived version on our help page. Okay, and design your day. Thank you. And you're saying, is there a way to use the collection as a shared screen resource? Yes, I think so. Thank you, everyone. Design your day. I want to make sure that I'm understanding your question. So, is there a way to use the collection as a shared screen resource? Do you mean, can you share your screen while you have a collection open? If that's what you mean, then yes, absolutely, you can do that. Okay. Here, so in fact, right now, I'm sharing my screen, right? So I just have oh, it works best in Chrome, by the way. So if you use the lab in Chrome, then you can just share your screen. So Karen is saying, when will part 2 be presented in January? We don't have our January schedule up yet. We will probably figure that out sometime later this month or early December. But Karen, anytime. So right now I'm on the help page, right? So look at what we have here. If you go down to creating collections, this is the one that's scheduled for next week. But anytime you come to this page, you can find an archived version of creating collections. So it won't be live for you, but still it will go through all the major content. Okay? So if you can't make the live, you can always find the archive. Okay. Okay, Lauren, so I think I answered your question. Let me know if I did not. And then Susan says, let's see what Susan says. I'm making the chess collection now with my youth to augment preparation for a talk tomorrow. Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. Okay, and Karen says you're looking for professional development, so live is best. Absolutely. So Karen, are you the person who wrote to me ahead of time? If you are, you can send me an email and I'll try to remember to let you know once we've scheduled January. But let me show you also, I think we talked about this, but just in case, at the bottom right-hand corner, remember clicking on that bolt or nut? What is that? A screw? It's the thing that takes you to settings. You can always contact us. So if you were to click there, um, that has my name because I'm the one signed into the lab, right? But you would give your email address and ask your question. So if you want to send us something, then we'll know. Thank you. It's a gear. Anyway, that's how you can reach us and for any questions that you have. Okay. You can also email us. Let me grab our email. Email there. Email learninglab@si.edu. Okay. Any other questions? So Lauren says, I'm teaching a studio arts class. What's SSA? Is that studio arts? Class about the history of applique in America plus how to do it. That's so cool. So I'm hoping that you found some good content in the lab there. One tip is to really play around with the search terms. So if you're finding a lot or too little, I really recommend just playing around with the terms so that you can find more because, oh, Smithsonian Associates, thank you. Um, oh, good, good. So Lauren has been playing around with the search terms. Excellent. And that you found good stuff in there. That's great. Yeah, what was I was going to say, because of, really the lab pulls from everything that's been digitized across the Smithsonian. It's a huge institution, right? And so people have digitized resources over the years, and there's a lot of variation about the kind of metadata they've included when they've uploaded. So it's really helpful to just search under different words and you'll find different content that way. So Susan has no more questions right now. Well, thank you so much for coming, everyone. If you have any more questions, please pop them in the chat and I will just show you now. Oops, hold on. I wanted to just share with you our schedule for the rest of the month. So here we have creating collections is next week. And then we have drop-in office hours the following week. Then we have our cultivating learning session the Monday after Thanksgiving. And then we have our December hours, the first 2 Mondays in December. Okay. Lauren, I'm so glad you're planning to join us next week. Next week's session will be led by my colleague, Tess Porter, who's wonderful and you'll love her. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And I'll see you in the chat soon, I hope. Happy creating in the lab. And please always feel free to reach out to us at learninglab.si.edu if you have any questions. Okay? Oh, good, Susan. Excellent. We'll see you next week too. Or not next week, then January. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.